Thank you for having me. We are going to do this presentation a little bit different. I'm not going to give you death by PowerPoint. You're happy about that, right? Yes. What I want to do with this session, my goal, is to inspire everyone in this room to leave here knowing that these kinds of things that I'm about to show you are achievable by even the smallest firm. Okay? I'm going to go through 5 different technologies that I think are absolutely essential, that are differentiators, that allow small firms to compete with the big firms. Because guess what? Small firms are the new big firms, right? We all know that. And the only way that you can provide the same level of service is to leverage technology, right? That's an essential part of what you do. And it still is amazing to me today when I talk to lawyers all over the country, they don't have any idea about some of the things that are pretty readily available. So we are going to go through the 5 things that I think really change the way a law firm practices, especially as it relates to how they're leveraging their technology. Now, the one thing that I'm not going to mention, I'm going to talk about first, is your time billing and accounting software. You have to have that. That's like the necessary thing. I also want to tell you that from, I think, 4:15 to 5:15 today, and from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. tomorrow, I'm going to be in the green room. I have no idea where it is, or even if it's green. Is it green? It's not green, but it's called the green room. I'm going to be in there for an hour this afternoon and 2 hours tomorrow morning, and I am more than happy to spend as much time talking to any one of you about what you use, what you're thinking about using, what you used to use, what you can't use, whatever it is. More than happy to talk to any one of you about that, okay? In the Eleanor room, wherever that is. Y'all find it. Just go to Kathleen, or go to the desk up there, and somebody will tell you where it is. Okay, so any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. There are actually going to be things that at least one person in this room will watch me do on the screen and say, I had no idea there was something that could do that. And everything I'm going to show you today is completely achievable. Now, let's talk about money for a minute, because everybody wants to know how much it costs. I can't tell you how much everything costs. I will mention prices along the way, but technology isn't free, any more than people aren't free, and space isn't free, and life in general just isn't free. There are a lot of free things that we can take advantage of on the internet, but you do have to spend money to really leverage technology. So I'm going to lead with that. It's nothing, what I'm going to show you here is not something that you just can get for free. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is practice management software. I feel like I've been talking about that for 20 years, but that's because I have been talking about it for 20 years, and yet still, the ABA most recent LTRC survey says that less than 20% of all firms use practice management software. I call it sanity software. I think it's one of the most important things that you can do at your firm. And this is probably the longest, or we're going to end this in PowerPoint. But why? Because you think by matter. Practice management software sorts everything by matter. It's not the same thing as Outlook, even though we like to think it is. You get instant access to information. Your clients want information. They want it now, and you want it now too. You get to see everybody who's involved, a task list, an event list, practice area-specific details. Everybody's going to the same place, so how about we all travel there the same way? There are ways to put templates of tasks together, so you're doing the same thing all the time, every time. Your clients want to believe that you're on top of what's going on. I love it when firms implement a system where they're able to track what their clients want out of the case that they're working on for them, and what the obstacles might be for them to get that, and have that information readily available to them. You know, if your client is on the phone with you and it says, oh gosh, I'm sorry I couldn't call you yesterday, my husband broke his leg. The next time you talk to that client, you should figure out how you're going to remember to say, how's your husband and his broken leg? We are in a relationship business here. Practice management software is one of the ways that we help manage those relationships. A central place for all of us to put information to give our clients confidence that we know what's going on, and to track those even mundane details like the husband broke the leg. Stop worrying about deadlines. We worry about it way too much because we don't keep track of them the way that we should keep track of them. And then, you know, my passionate line here, please stop giving away your time for free. You know, however many of you in this room bill hourly for your time, most of you want to figure out a way to stop doing that. And the primary reason you want to figure out a way to stop doing that is because you hate keeping track of your time, and you wish there was some other way that you could bill your clients hourly without having to keep track of your time. But there isn't a way. So that means that until you figure out how to get to value billing or flat rate pricing or whatever it is, you have to keep track of your time. And I would argue that even if you're not billing hourly for your time, you're in a contingency firm, you're doing flat rate work, you still should be keeping track of your time. That way, if you ever have to submit a fee affidavit to the judge, you don't have to recreate it from scratch. If you want to figure out if your flat rate that you're quoting or your value pricing that you're quoting is reasonable, the best way to do that is to see how much time you have in each matter. So it's not just for hourly work, but I get really frustrated when I see hourly firms who will readily admit to me that they give away 15 minutes a day, a 0.2, a 0.3 every day. And it's really quick to do the math on that. At a conservative $200 an hour, we're talking about $12,000 a year per lawyer. That's bottom line money. There's no amount of money you have to spend to get that extra money. And practice management software is great because it helps you to keep track of your time by having everything that's going on with the case all in one place. So here's what we're going to do. That's probably the only time I'll use the stairs. The rest of the time I'll just jump up and down right here. I want to show you two different practice management software programs. Now, the two that I have chosen to show you, I don't want anyone to think that that means I don't recommend anything else. There are 100 practice management solutions out there, 50 of which, maybe 60, you shouldn't buy. They just came out last week. Somebody's making it in their garage. They don't have their stuff in a secure data center. You have to do your homework on these. But I want to show you two programs because we live in kind of a bifurcated world right now. We live in that cloud world, and we live in the server is in my office, and I feel better about that because I can open up the broom closet and hear it humming and touch it and feel it, and that makes me feel better. And I'm sure it's more secure in my broom closet, 6 feet away from a window that someone could throw a rock through, climb in and grab that server and take it with them. Oh, forget it. They don't even, the cleaning people, they just choose not to put it in their car every time they dust it off. We have to really think about what our feelings about security are. And if really, in fact, that server that's in your office is more secure than having your data in a data center that follows hundreds of guidelines that we could never, ever, ever replicate in our own offices with armed security guards, very limited access, redundant everything. You have to really think about that. So we're living in this world where we have traditional, or what I'll call terrestrial software, and we have cloud software. So I want to just show you a little peek into both of those. By the way, something really funny. I took this picture with my cell phone at Lake Tahoe, and I posted it on Facebook and said, now, if only I had an app to remove all of the people. And one of my friends posted, you already have one, it's called an alarm clock. And I was like, what? I don't even get that. I mean, it took me like an hour, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, get up earlier, and then all those people won't be swimming in that freezing cold water. Got it. Okay, so side note. All right, now, I am running all of this, most of this. There's a couple things that are running locally, but most of what I'm going to show you, I'm running through the Hotel Wireless. This is the third time in 2 weeks that I've done this exact presentation. One time I had to use my phone in Alaska because the hotel Wi-Fi was so bad, so I was connected to my hotspot and it worked. So I'm pretty confident that unless this hotel internet is just awful, it is not going to work. Now, the other thing is, I'm not trying to train you. Remember, I'm just trying to get you to imagine, if you will, if you had a system that electronically managed your cases, right? Okay, so this one is called Amicus Attorney. It's been around for a long, long time. How many of you in here, does anyone use Amicus in here? Okay, a few hands. How many of you use a practice management software in general? Clio, Rocket Matter, Time Matters, Practice Master, Amicus. Okay, so we have probably 30 to 40, so you guys are above average. That's good. Now, Here's one of the problems with people who do use practice management software. It's like perhaps some of your garages, where you or your husband or your wife or your partner has an entire wall full of tools, but they only ever use the hammer and the screwdriver. Do you have one of those? I do. I have one of those. We have a bandsaw. I don't think it's ever been plugged in. I'm not sure why we own it, but we have it. And that's unfortunately what happens with all of the software that we have in our offices. We use 1 or 2 or 5 or 8 little things. So yes, I use Amicus for my calendar. Okay, that's not using it. That's not the same thing. So we're talking about really leveraging it, not owning it. There's a difference between those two. So when we talk about leveraging it, what we want to make sure that we're doing is that we have it set up the way that we want it set up. So I'm just looking at a quick little demo database here, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to open up this Cooperman file. So the Cooperman file, I know you can't read that, don't worry about reading it. So just a visual representation of my paper file. Hopefully y'all don't have paper files, but pretend like you do. I'm sure you've seen one before. Left-hand side, I've got all the people who are involved, phone numbers, email addresses, everything I'd ever need, accessible by everyone. I met with a firm when I was in Alaska last week, and I said, well, what if y'all have to work on each other's cases? And they said, that's like impossible here. We're really 11 law firms that share space. I have my contact list, he has his contact list. If I have to do something, I have to go get contacts. This is shared by everyone. So from here, I can see everybody who's involved with this case. I can see all the notes. I can see every single event. Yes, it can sync with Outlook. We all love our Outlook calendars. We all have our calendars on our phone. It can absolutely sync with Outlook. All of my events, whether they're mine or someone else's, I can see from here. Same thing with a task list. I can see all of the time entries, mine or everyone else's time, exactly what people have done on this file. I can link it back to my emails and telephone calls and telephone messages. I can link it back to all of my documents, pictures, all of the discovery that I have, any kind of documents, all central access from one place. But even more important than that, I can create custom information. So this particular file is a family law file. So what I've done is I've set this up here. So I have the date they got separated. Do they have any kids? How old are the kids? How much does the husband make? How much does the wife make? Just whatever. Use your imagination. This doesn't have to be what you might keep track of, but whatever information you would need to have a conversation with the client about what's going on with their file without having to go get the paper file or ask someone else in your office for the information. And the way that every one of these practice management programs are set up is that's what it looks like in that particular case, because that was a family law file. But if I go look at a civil litigation file, I don't have the same information because I don't even know the date someone was separated. I have what kind of action was it? What was the date of the incident? What are the damages? What's the interest rate? What county is it in? All different questions that I have to answer for a litigation case versus a family law case. So you really can customize it, and every one of them out there has the ability to do this. So no matter which one you're using, that's something you really should strive to do, is figure out how can you leverage it better than you are now. Now, really quick, just jumping over outside of this, and of course it does a million more things. If I was doing a real demo for you, we'd be here for an hour and 20 minutes. But I just logged into Cleo. Any of you use Cleo? We have a few Cleo users in the house. Same thing is true with Cleo. You know, we talk to a firm and they say, yes, we use Cleo. We log in and we look and nothing is customized. And it's just kind of like the way that they got it when they signed up for it. They haven't really done anything with it. Same concept here. Customize your dashboard so the things that you care about are what you're looking at when you log in. Cleo does exactly the same thing. It thinks by matter. So if I go into any one of these matters and I open one up, I have all of these tabs across the top. Same concept. Who's working on this file? Who else is involved in this file? What are the tasks? What are the calendar entries, notes, time entries, expenses? Cleo also does your billing. It's a great product for small firms, especially for small firms. Well, what's the difference between the terrestrial package and the cloud-based, which is what Cleo is? I mean, the biggest difference there is how you pay for it. The terrestrial software right now is still, no matter which one you buy, is still going to run you somewhere between $1,000 and $1,200 a user. That's to buy the software, get the training, have it customized, because you shouldn't buy it unless you're going to do the training. And then you pay an annual maintenance fee. Something like Cleo, I think it's $59 or $69 for the middle level. If you don't need electronic billing, if you do, you have to go to the higher level. But the middle level is $59 or $69 a user a month, and that's just what you pay forever, or until they raise their prices or lower their prices. That's what you pay forever. So when you look at it over a 5-year period or maybe a 9-year period of time, you will always pay more money for subscription software, but you don't have to write the first check. And there's some benefit for small firms in not having to write that first big check. Now, just because you buy Cleo doesn't mean that you don't need training. We recommend that every firm, no matter how quote-unquote easy, quote-unquote out of the box it is, that everyone spends a couple of hours getting some kind of training so they make sure that they don't back themselves up into a corner on how they set it up. Training is absolutely imperative, and training is also not a one-and-done thing. You don't bring everybody into a room, train them, say, great job everybody, go back to your desks and work, and then never talk about it again. It needs to be continual training with people sharing information about how they're really leveraging this very, very important tool. Okay, let's move to the next thing. Okay, so document management software. Everyone has seen this picture. This is like a clip art. It's all over the internet. It's on everybody's screen that everybody who talks about going paperless puts this ridiculously crazy picture up, right? I like to put this picture up because this was a real law firm not that long ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, where we were doing a paperless office implementation for them, and someone said, hey, can you go help Jerry? And I said, sure. And I walked down, I made a hard left into Jerry's office, and I stopped and said, I gotta go get my phone. I gotta get a picture of this. And when I came back, he said, you can't take a picture of this. And I said, I will blur out anything that anyone could see, even if they zoomed into 500%. I have to get a picture of this. This is real life. This is the worst one I've ever seen, but I've seen ones that are nearly as bad, but you could at least walk across the floor. If you might have noticed, there goes my internet connection. We're going to hope and pray that it comes back here pretty soon. If you see on the floor, I'm going to let that go for a second. No internet connection. Beautiful. Oh, you got to be kidding me. All right. I love technology. Okay, so if you see here on the floor, I'm just going to let that sit there for a second. I couldn't even walk to his desk to sit down. The only clear space that guy had was up here where his mouse was, and even then, when you move the mouse, your hand bumped into stacks of paper on each side. The whole concept of document management software is to be able to find the documents that you have electronically stored, okay? One of the biggest problems with paperless and trying to have less paper, I am not one of those radicals that thinks that you can have no paper. I've given that up a long, long time ago. That is not what we're striving for. We're striving for depending on paper less today than we were yesterday. And we just get a little bit better every day until we get to a place where we're comfortable with the least amount of paper. So being able to find documents, because one of our fears of scanning is if I scan it and I'm like, holding it over my shredder, like she says I can shred it, but I'm going to need to be able to find it again. How do I find it? And the answer is you have some sort of document management solution. A document management solution is going to let you, just connect this guy back up here. A document management software is going to let you find files you have created and find files that other people have created. How many times, you don't have to answer this, have you thought, I know I've created a document just like this, but I can't remember who it was for, and then you spend some amount of time looking for it. If you're really lucky, you find it, and if you're not, you recreate the wheel that you know exists, the whole time being frustrated because you know that somewhere that exists. It's all about being able to find those things. It is estimated that 80% of your knowledge is stored in documents. And we hope that people put things in the right client matter folder, but we also know that doesn't happen. How many times has it happened at your firm where somebody's dragged an entire folder into another folder, and now that thing is lost, and everybody thinks we've lost all of our documents, and you know, a day later, a week later, a month later, someone says, I found the Smith documents, they were in the Jones folder. That is a real thing that happens. So this is how we put some structure around trying to find our documents. Now, back to the whole terrestrial model, you saw that I lost my internet connection and it came back and it reconnected. So I'm connected to a program called WorldDocs. This is kind of the terrestrial example, although I'm running this over the cloud. So when I do a search here and I say I want to find, I'm just going to search for the same thing every time. So I'm going to search for Baron Henley. Baron Henley is one of my business partners, and it's going to go through and it's going to search every single document in our repository, which is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of documents. And in like 1 second or 5 seconds, however long it was, it says, we found over 10,000 files. I say, okay, let's narrow it down to the last 90 days. So it's going to go back through and it's going to say, okay, in the last 90 days looking for that, it found 176 files, and it's sorted by date. Everything with Baron Henley's name in it. Now, I can use every kind of Boolean searching that you can use with Lexis and West to be able to find my documents. So if you're looking for a motion to compel and you know that the word dog was in it, you can say motion to compel in quotes and dog, and it will only find those documents. As sophisticated as you need your searches to be, they can be. You can also search just by client, just by matter, just by pleadings, just by doc type, anything you want. And it's not a go forward thing. It's not, oh, that's great, so if I buy it today, everything today forward I can find? No, everything from backwards you can find too. And most of the document management software programs, a competitor to WorldDocs would be NetDocuments. Anyone in here use WorldDocs or NetDocs? Okay, so same concept. NetDocs is a cloud-based product though. So all your documents are stored in the cloud. So before you say, I'm never doing that, I need my documents to be secure, so I'm going to keep them in my office, go back to Exhibit A, where we talked about how easy it would be for someone to take things from your office. Likely hundreds of times easier than it would be for someone to take things from somewhere else. Important that you ask all those security questions, though, no question about it. Okay, so WorldDocs and NetDocuments. Those are two ways for you to be able to search your document repository. One of the reasons why we like it so much is because it's forced compliance. It makes people do the things that they are not likely to do. It makes them save documents in the right place. And even if they choose not to save them in the right place, because you can find them based on any word in the document, it's okay. And most of these also have an add-on that will, this could be mind-blowing for everyone, could go back and look at all of the PDFs that you have created that are not text searchable. So when you go up over to your copy machine and you scan something in, by default, it will not be text searchable unless there is some sort of an OCR engine that's running on them. That is actually a really inexpensive tool to be able to go back through and look through all of your old PDFs, text index them, so you can find them again. It's not that expensive to do that. So most of them have that add-on where you can also search. Now, you're talking probably about the same amount of money for implementing like a WorldDocs or a NetDocuments, which really are the two contenders for any small firm. You would not be the other products that are out there, larger firm products. But there's another little genre of products, and the one that I'm going to just show you real quick is called Kapkan X1 is another. I have Kapkan running on my machine for no other reason than to show people how easy it would be to make it work. And what Kapkan is gives you the ability to point to folders that are either on your computer, so if you're really a solo and everything is all in one place, Dropbox, whatever it is, everything that's local, and also on a network drive, and go through and look at everything you have and index not just every document and then what you called it, but every word inside of every text searchable document. So if we go back to my example of Baron Henley, so this is real, Baron Henley, searching, it found 558 documents. 18,093 items, and 17,535 emails. And it found that in 2.5 seconds. I installed this on a Sunday at 10 o'clock at night, and the indexes were fully built by the morning. The reason why there are so many of these is because I have literally every email on this computer that I have sent or received. Well, not received because I delete a lot of my received emails, but I have every email I've sent since 2002. So Baron and I email a lot. But here's the thing. If I wanted to look at emails, and I know that I have been emailing Baron about a product called Big Hand. If I type Baron Henley Big Hand, it narrows it down to 770. Same kinds of things. I can sort it by date. I can filter it by all of these refine here on the left-hand side. So I can say only if I got it from him, only if it has an attachment, only if it's bigger than this certain size. And this product, I never can remember the actual price of it, so I just put a little screenshot in here. That's $49.95. So for $49.95, you can put this on your computer and let the index run overnight, as long as you have access to all of your documents. And this would include, for any of you out there who fondly remember the WordPerfect days and you still have a bajillion WordPerfect documents on your desktop, this would include all of those. Anything that is text searchable. So that means any word processing document. It doesn't matter if it was created in the Mac program called Pages. It doesn't matter if it was in OpenOffice, in Google Docs. It doesn't matter where you created it. If it lives on your hard drive and it's a word processing document, it will text index every single word inside that document. It will also index Excel spreadsheets if you tell it to, PowerPoint presentations, every single email that you have access to in your Outlook, and you can go in and turn on and off certain things. So you can say, this is my personal financial folder, don't include this folder. So it's full featured as far as what you can include and what you not include, and you have the ability to do the same kind of Boolean searches. So at the very least, do something like this. That at least gets you to a place where all of your stuff is text searchable. If you don't like Copernic because you don't like the name or you want to see what else is out there, you can just go to Google and type in competitors to Copernic, and you will see X1 and 4 or 5 other ones that are available, and there's a Mac edition of a couple of them for those of you who use Macs. But this seriously can revolutionize the way that you start looking for your documents if you're not going to be invested in a full-blown document management solution. Does anybody have any questions before I move off of that? Okay. Speech. I'm going to use my phone for this one. How many of you still dictate? Okay. How many of you that dictate still use microcassette tapes? Okay. So, I have kind of been an anti-dictation person, and I've thought that it's really time for everybody to just learn how to type and move on from the dictation. However, in the last year or so, I have been convinced otherwise. I have this app, and there's an Android app, there's a Windows app, there's an iPhone app, there's an iPad app, and there's a desktop app. And for everyone who says, that'll never work for me because I dictate and I must have that little rewind, fast forward slider switch, that's fine. It can work with a Philips or who's the other big manufacturer of those little handheld digital dictation devices. You dock it, it sucks it in, it brings it into Big Hand. So we're going to do our Big Hand demo a little bit like a cooking show, where we're going to start it and then we're going to go talk about something else and we're going to come back, pull it out of the oven and show you what it looks like. So this is what happens. So I have this little app, and I click the plus sign for a new digital dictation file. And I get this red button, which universally means, please record me, right? I want to find something that doesn't have a 100 rule. I don't want to read about that. All right, I'm just going to read this one little paragraph. Okay, so I'm going to press that red button. In conclusion, the rapidly growing population of aging adults has led to the stunning increase in the incidence of financial exploitation, period. The graying of America has given the unsavory members of our society a new target, period. The vulnerable older adults we represent are often affected with Alzheimer's disease or other forms of cognitive impairment, period. They deserve protection from abuse. Attorneys throughout the country should be vigilant and protect their clients from abuse and neglect. Period. Okay, so I just read that paragraph. I'm going to click a little button that says send. I can set up lots of different ways that this should route. Okay, I can tell it to route directly to my assistant, who can, in the old-fashioned way, play it on her computer with the foot pedals, the whole 9 yards, or I can set up a workflow. So I use this now. We have someone who helps us. She doesn't actually book my travel, because I always say that if I ever get stranded in an airport, the only person's fault it should ever be is mine. That would just be better for everyone involved. But she'll help with things like change a hotel reservation. So I can dictate that to her and click on send it to our travel assistant, and it routes directly to her. No one else sees it. When she reads it and finishes it, she marks it done. It sends me a message that it's done. I can do a whole entire workflow system in here. But I'm going to go in here and say, I want you to send this to speech recognition. And I'm going to click send. Now, in just a few seconds, you're going to see it pop up on the screen. So this is my Big Hand application that's on my desktop. And it is connected to the server. Did you see that new one just pop up there? It's right here. So it is connected to the server in Michigan somewhere. And right now what's happening to it is in a queue to be run through speech recognition. Okay? So this is where the cooking show part starts, because that could take anywhere from a minute to 4 or 5 minutes. So we're going to just hold this thought. We're going to move on, talk about the next thing, and then we're going to come back to this, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay? All right. Here's the next thing. Not that. Anyone in here use document generation? So I want to show you 2 ways to generate documents. And the concept of document automation is that at the very least, the things that you're doing over and over again that are low-hanging fruit and easy, that might be retainer agreements, engagement letters, that might be medical records requests, that might be an enclosed please find letter. Whatever it is, the things that you're regularly doing should be automated. So if you think about document automation like in 4 quadrants, you have the things that you do all the time that are easy, the things you do all the time that are hard, the things that you don't do very often that are easy, and the things that you don't do very often that are hard. You will almost never automate the things you don't do very often that are hard. Take it off the list. We're not going to worry about that. We are going to focus on quadrant 1 and 2, the things we do all the time that are easy, and then the things we do all the time that are hard. Because if we were 50% better than we are today, we would win, right? So the problem with document automation is that so many people think that it is beyond their reach. It's too expensive. I'll never figure out how to do it. And while some of those things are true, there are a couple of new things that have happened in the last couple of years that I think merit another look at document automation. The first thing is that HotDocs has built out what is called a HotDocs marketplace, where you can buy other people's templates. It's like the App Store. If you write an app and you give it to Apple, Apple gets 30%, you get 70%. Same thing is true with the HotDocs marketplace. People put their templates up there. It's starting to become more and more common. You can buy sets of templates, and although you might not be comfortable coding a document, you can certainly change the language that is not involved in the coding. So if you like to start your letters off indented instead of not indented, that's something that anybody can do. It's just editing a template real quick. Complex coding, you might need some help with. But the basic general stuff is pretty straightforward and easy to do. Now, hot dogs cost money, although there is a web-based version, and that's getting better and better and better. But I want to just show you really quick how it works. So I'm looking at just a demo system of hot dogs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this assemble button, and hot dogs is going to, I'm telling hot dogs that I want to create an employment agreement. So what happens is it first comes up and asks me if I want to create an answer file. And here's what that means. It's basically saying, are you going to create a lot of documents for this one person? Because if you are, and you're going to ask, and you're going to answer questions, I want to make the answers that you give me available to the next document you create for that person. So if I answer the question, is this person married? And I say yes, and I'm drafting a simple will. When it's time to do the durable power of attorney, and the question is the person married, it already knows from me answering the first question, in the question the first time in the first document, okay? So I'm gonna say, yes, this is a new answer file, and it comes in and says, okay, tell me what the employee's name is. So I'm creating an employment agreement. This is great for leases, for simple will documents. So I'm gonna just say that this person's name is John Smith, and it asks me if they're male or female. Why? Pronouns. You want to put the right pronouns in there. You don't want to work so hard to make your document so generic that you don't miss a him or a her or a he or a she, because it takes too much time to make sure you have all of that right. And what this does is it lets you build your pronouns right into the coding. So if I go to this document preview here, you can just kind of see from the back, everything in blue is what I've typed in, everything in red is what it's still waiting for. And so it says John Smith, and that means that if you look right here, in this section, it says him right here. If I were to change that to Jane Smith, it would change that to her. Just that easily, okay? So it asks me, male or female, but I can also do other things like, what's going to be the date of the agreement? I'm going to say it's today. Who's going to sign it? Because it's going to build the signature lines for me. So who's going to sign it? We'll say Stephanie's going to sign it. We'll say Stephanie's going to sign it today. What is the person's job title? Customer service rep. Complete the following sentence. Job duties shall include anything we ask her to do, period. Her start date will also be today, just to make it easy. Now, I've got these two checkboxes here. Employee to complete trial period, yes or no. If I check the box, it's going to add a paragraph about a trial period. If I don't check it, it will not even mention a trial period. Think about that for your retainer agreements, engagement letters, where you want money and trust. Do you want money and trust? Yes. Okay, here's the paragraph. How much? Do you not want money and trust? No, don't need money and trust. Leaves the paragraph completely out. Is the employee going to get paid to go to seminars? I'm going to say, yeah, we're going to give them 5 paid seminar days. Are they exempt? If so, what's their annual salary? Non-exempt? Okay, then what's their hourly salary? So I'm going to say exempt, $45,000, and the number of vacation days is 15. And then I'm going to say send that document to Microsoft Word. So what's going to happen is it's going to go through and assemble my document. It's going to save the answer file, which I might have already saved one called John Smith. No. And it's going to create this Word document for me that has everything exactly formatted the way I want to format it. I don't have to worry about numbering, paragraph numbering, all of that. Everything, all the conditional stuff is there. All the dates that I put in are there. It completely built out the signature lines for the person from the company who's signing it and also for the new employee who's signing it. All completely done. Now, is there an investment of time in building your templates? For sure. To make them look the way you want them to look, definitely there is. But if you could then take something like this and create it in 1 minute instead of 8 minutes or 24 minutes, makes a big difference. We have a client in Florida, so it's actually makes a whole lot of sense in Florida because of our older population and also the number of snowbirds that we have come down. We have a client in Florida who does estate planning, but he doesn't talk to anybody whose estate isn't worth $1 million or more. So he calls that specialty estate planning work, and it's a very small firm, 4, maybe 5 people, and he does some really complicated estate planning documents. So he spent $40,000, 40, on automating all of his templates. But before he did that, he charged his clients somewhere between $5,000 and $7,500, and it took him somewhere between 20 and 30 hours to draft those documents. After he did it, he started charging his clients between $4,000 and $6,000 and spends 3 to 4 hours drafting the documents. Are the documents any less valuable because it takes him less time to create them? No, of course not. But he was still able to give his clients a win and get a huge win for his firm and have the most accurate documents he's ever had. Because you know what happens when you build a quote-unquote template and it becomes your template and you open it and you create a document from it. And you go back and forth with a client, you end up taking things out and adding things in. And then the next time you need to create a document just like that, you use the client's document because that one was so good and you had it just perfect. But you took things out and you added things in, so you have to remember what you took out and you added in. And do you ever go back to that original document and do that? The way that he built out his templates, which is an extreme example, but I want you to get the picture of what really could happen, is he made sure that he accounted for everything. He probably spends a few $1,000s a year on maintaining his template set to make sure that they're up to date and they have everything that he wants in them. But he is seriously an estate planning document machine. He gives his clients better service, he spends more time with them, he walks through that interview process with them right in the room. It's pretty powerful to see the difference of the before and after at that estate planning firm. It's also great for any other kind of transactional work, any leases, landlord-tenant work, any kind of like a personal injury or med mal firm where you're requesting documents all the time. Because one of the other really powerful pieces of document automation is being able to use it in conjunction with your matter management software. So I'm logged in right now to a system called Action Step, which is kind of similar to Cleo. It's an online practice management system. And I want to show you another document automation example. So I'm going to open up this GoDaddy IPO file. So same concept, I can see everybody who's involved, I can see recent emails, incomplete tasks, a time and billing summary, but from my practice management program, and this is really true for almost every practice management program out there, I can go here to the documents page and I can say, generate a document. And it's going to come up with this window and say, which template do you want me to use? Now for this one, I'm going to show you something a little bit different. I'm going to pick this SEC form. And I'm going to say I want to open that in Microsoft Office and click Generate. This online practice management program actually integrates with HotDocs. So the employment agreement that I showed you, it's using the exact same engine for this, except that I have it tied back into my practice management software database. So it isn't going to ask me questions it already knows the answer to. So the first page that comes up is the registrant information. So before it asks me that, it looks back at my practice management file and says, is the registrant on the file as an entity or a person? Oh, it is? Okay, great. I'll just go ahead and fill all that out. You can look at it and tell me if you have any changes, but it's got the tax ID number, the whole thing. So that looks good. So I'm going to click on Next. And then it's going to come up and it's going to say, how about the agent for service? Well, the agent is already listed there, so it's going to grab all of that information and add that in there, so I don't have to answer those questions. I can just click Next to say that it's true. Approximate date of proposed sale to public. That's actually a custom field in the matter, so it grabbed that first. I can tell it if that's not the date or not. And then what we did is we went through the SEC form to see what other things you needed to answer there. So there's 4 checkboxes that says, check it if you're, delayed or continuous basis pursuant to Rule 415. Check if you're going to register for additional securities. Check this if the post-effective amendment, whatever. I'm going to check one of those. And then the SEC form also wants to know if you're a large accelerated filer, an accelerated filer, and if you don't know which one it is, go look at Rule 12b2. So I'm going to say we are an accelerated filer. And then it wants to know where we're going to sign it. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say we are going to sign it in Columbus, Ohio. We're going to sign it today. It's going to be signed by John Smith, and he is principal. And it says, okay, you're done. Perfect. I'm going to say okay. Now remember, I told it to open up in Microsoft Office. But it's going to circumvent that and say, yeah, no, you're actually not allowed to edit this document. They told me to send it right to a PDF. Because I want to make sure that that form doesn't get changed. So if I say I want to download that and look at that PDF, here's what it looks like. It's the SEC form, exactly the way they want it. All of the information has been filled out on it. Here's the checkbox where I checked that third box. Here's where I said we were an accelerated filer. I go down further, this is all standard language in their document. I go down further and you can see, here's where John Smith, principal, is going to sign in these places, and it's signed in Columbus on September 25th. And that document is done. So it's not just about creating Word documents. It's about creating any kind of document. There are still some counties in lots of states that have antiquated forms that must be filled out. One that we dealt with recently in West Virginia was a dissolution of marriage thing that was actual, the form, if you get it from the courthouse, was still a carbon form. And we automated that in PDF. It doesn't, and it was an odd-sized paper too, and it had to be on the odd-sized paper, so we had to order special paper, but we still could generate it through here and print it out as long as it was in their format, the size of the paper that they wanted, and they would take it. So it's really use your imagination. Think of all of the different things that you're doing over and over again. There are lots of firms that exist without typewriters. There are more firms that believe they need their typewriters. Believe it or not, I feel like when I'm walking around a firm and I hear a typewriter, it's like a twitch. I feel like I need to walk to it and see what on earth is going on the typewriter that we couldn't do some other way. But there still are a lot of firms that have typewriters. So use your imagination. There's lots of things that you can do with documentation. Okay, I'm going to go back to our big hand file. So this says it's done, so I'm going to double click on it. And here's what it's going to do. Here is the text of what I read. Okay? So two things can happen here. I can copy and paste that into a Word document, or I can tell Big Hand to do that for me and tell it to open up in Microsoft Word. I don't actually have the right plugin installed on my computer, but here's what normally happens. It's going to put that into a Microsoft Word document, and on that ribbon bar up there, it's going to give the person who is looking at it a play button. So they can play back the dictation in Microsoft Word, hear what you had to say. And what the goal of this is, what they want you to do first, is correct anything that was wrong. And then process those corrections, because that's how you train it. How many of you bought Dragon, tried to use it, gave up, threw it in the garbage can, and said, they're not doing this again? Lots of people have done that. And it's because we didn't feel like reading Tom Sawyer one more time to Dragon Naturally Speaking. The technology has improved so drastically. This is actually using a Dragon Naturally Speaking server. And being able to go in and make your corrections and saving your corrections back is what is building your voice file, and that voice file lives on those servers. So you send it from your iPad, you send it from your phone, you send it from your computer, you send it from your handheld. It's going to use that same dictation file with all of those rules to run that dictation. So for those of you who are still dictating, this magical digital dictation is so far superior to what we have used in the past, number one. And number two, if you haven't considered dictating, there's some information in your materials about the, some of the facts about digital dictation, how fast we type versus how fast we talk. And for some people, the way they build a document is typing it, and that's awesome and great, and I still type quite a bit. But I also use my speech recognition for when I'm maybe writing an article and I just want to say it out loud to get it onto a piece of paper, and then I go in and massage it and make it what I want it to be. There's still plenty of ways to leverage the power of speech without committing to be a 100% dictator in a dictation kind of way, not a bossy kind of way. Okay, so last thing. Anyone have any questions about that before I go into the last thing? The last thing is a little tiny, itsy-bitsy bit of a soapbox for me because one of the things that I spend a lot of my time doing is trying to help that paralegal at her desk use her computer as efficiently as she or he can. And one of the things that rings true almost everywhere I go is I stand behind them and I watch them work so much harder than they need to work. Our training program is either figure it out or stumble upon, and the stumble upon method is maybe even more dangerous than the figure it out method, but even in mid-sized firms, oftentimes, there's your computer, here's your password, you're gonna have to change it every 30 days, it's just the standard stuff, go sit down and figure out how to use it. And it's the same analogy as the practice management one I gave you before, where you have a craftsman toolbox full of tools, and we use a hammer and a screwdriver and a pair of pliers every once in a while. That's true with Microsoft Office. It's true with Outlook, Word. People are working way harder than they need to work. So I'm going to just kind of walk through a few tips here, and we're going to talk about some other tips in the 60 tips session if you're going to come to that in just a little bit. But the first thing is everyone should be encouraged to go visit the options section of any Microsoft Office product. We buy it and we use it exactly the way that Bill Gates said to use it, or whoever is making those decisions now. We don't change anything. I bet you that 50% of the time when I watch someone create a new document, they create a new document and then they change the font to the one they want, and they start typing, instead of just simply changing their default font. That seems so simple, but it's just not how people think, how a lot of people think. We depend on our staff to come to us and say, I bet there's a more efficient way to do it, but that's not really how it works so much of the time. So go look at your options, go look at your preferences so you can leverage these tools. Most people don't know that you can save a PDF right from within any Office application. And you've been able to do that for several versions, but it's still something people go, really? Yeah, save as, click on the drop-down, pick PDF. One of the great things about that is it's text searchable. When you click on save as a PDF, it's automatically text searchable. I still hear on a weekly basis, I really miss reveal codes. I go, well then hit Shift F1 and you can have it. It doesn't look exactly the same, but it tells you exactly the same information. Not only does it tell you the same exact information, but reveal formatting is what it's called in Microsoft Word, will let you look at a particular section of a document and how it is formatted and compare it to another section that you feel like should look the same, but it doesn't, and tell you what's different about it. All of those blue hyperlinks on the right-hand side, you just click on those and you can change exactly what you want to change. Now, do I expect that you would have held down the function key and started pressing the F keys to see what might happen when you clicked on them? No, of course not. So you never would have found this unless someone told you about it, or you happened upon it, or you read it in an article, or whatever, you came to a seminar. But these are the kinds of things that could help everybody use Word more proficiently. Adding auto text. In a Word document, when I type in DFSIG and hit the Enter key, this is what shows up. DFSIG, it puts my signature line, including that image of my signature. Just like that, I just type in DFSIG, and it takes about 5 seconds to set it up. And again, if you want to come to the green room later, I will walk you through exactly how to do any one of these things, if it's something that you want to look at doing back at your office. And in the slides that, in the documentation, there's also some additional information. I joke all the time and say that if I were ever going to get a tattoo and it was going to be on my arm, it would be of the word indefinitely, because no matter what I do, I cannot spell that word right. So what I did is I went into Word and I put in every single possible misspelling of indefinitely and fixed it to be spelled the right way. So now I don't even care how I type it. I type it however I want, and it fixes it every single time to indefinitely spelled the right way. If you have a long firm name, the number of times I see people typing a firm name that has 5 words in it, and they type the whole thing. Highlight it, save it as an auto text entry. As soon as you start typing it, it'll say, is this what you're trying to say? Yes, you hit enter, boom, it puts the whole thing in there. And anything like that you could imagine. You could type DF letter, and it would put the whole letter template in there. Anything you want to do. The compare documents in Word 2013 is incredibly powerful. So I browse to one document, I browse to the second document, and I say, show me the differences between this one, and then show them to me combined in the middle if I decided I wanted to combine them. Really, really powerful feature that's built right in. We know firms that are spending hundreds of dollars on a compare software where really this would do exactly what they needed to do. I love talking to people about saving them valuable half seconds. Someone wants to send an email. So they either start minimizing everything they have to go try and find Outlook, which is 13 windows behind, or they go down to their taskbar and they look for it, and they click on it, and they find their email, they click on it, and then they click on New. Well, you could just right-click on Outlook down there. You don't even have to know where it is in the order of minimizing, and click on New Email Message, and it will bring up a new message. Just right-click New. You can do a calendar appointment, you can do a new contact, a new task. That freaking easy. Quick steps are like little macros for your email. So you can, my favorite quick step is reply and delete. If someone sends me an email and I just know that I keep all my sent items, someone sends me an email and I don't really need to keep the original email, instead of replying to it and then going back in and moving it or deleting it later, I hit reply and delete the quick step, and it replies and it deletes the message all at the same time. And I have other quick steps, and in the documentation is every single quick step I have, how I use it, and how to create it. I'm going to guess that most of you in this room have never even used quick steps. If you are intrigued by this, when you go back to Microsoft Outlook on your desktop, you will see that it takes up the most real estate of anything else on any of the ribbon bars. It's right there on the home ribbon for everyone to see. But it's one of those features that unless someone told us about it or we stumbled upon it, we just don't use it. The Adobe, for any of you who use Adobe or any of the other PDF add-ins, we still are in this habit of dragging all of the client matter related emails into a folder, and no one else can see them but us because they're on our own computers, which is really frustrating for other people, especially when you're collaborating. But one of the things that you can do with that add-on is you can create a PDF of all of the emails that are in that folder. So if you have the Smith versus Jones folder and all of your emails are in there, you can go to that folder, go to your Adobe add-in and say, create a new PDF with all of these emails. And it will put them all in there with all of the header information, with all of the attachments, everything, fully text searchable for you to save where other people can see it. And what's even all of the header info, like the internet header information, so you can see what servers it was routed through, all saved there, within there, yes. And what's even great about that is 1 month later, when you have more emails, you can just highlight those emails and say append it to that PDF, and it will add those to the PDF. Really, really powerful stuff. So those are some of the basic things that, just because I'm out of time, I want to tell you. And again, I just want to say the big takeaway from this is we could have gone on for another 2 hours of other little things that you could do to really leverage technology. Not big, high-ticket dollar amount items. But our reality is that we've got to figure out how to make technology our servant instead of being a servant to our technology, which is what so many of us feel like. And there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in every one of your offices, even if it's just some lunch and learns. If you haven't checked out lynda.com, lynda.com is a great resource. YouTube is an amazing resource for videos on how to create styles in Microsoft Word and make your documents a little bit more predictable so people aren't so frustrated with document formatting. And there's a lot of resources that really are available at no cost to you, but bite these things off a little tiny bit at a time, because going back and saying, all right, we're going to change everything, that doesn't ever work. But if you figure out how to maybe say, like the 4th quarter of 2015, we're going to really focus on email management, leveraging Outlook. and come up with a plan for things that you want people to do, some classes you want them to take on Linda, or find some good YouTube videos, or there's hundreds of resources out there, and really commit to taking some baby steps to even starting with just what you have, and then thinking about what you want to do in the coming year. What kinds of technology do you want to implement to really bring yourself to that next level when it comes to leveraging technology? Again, 4:15 to 5:15, I'll be in that room, and tomorrow morning from 8 to 10, I would love to talk to any of you. My email address is also up here. You are welcome to email me with any questions that you have, and I really appreciate you inviting me, and appreciate being here to with you tomorrow.